Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and thank you so much for watching. Now today's video we're going to be covering the 10 main important things, or at least things that I find important about Code Vein that I wish I would have known or at least paid attention to before I actually started playing the game and getting in depth with it. Okay, so number one, and probably the most important thing for people that aren't familiar with like Dark Souls or games like that, is going to be taking your time. Now I had to learn the hard way that I can't just run through hack and slash and get through it. Even though this is more of a hack and slash RPG, you definitely need to take your time and understand when to attack and when not to attack. So if you think you're going to jump right into this game, hack and slash and run through it, man, do you have something else in store for you? Now with that being said, obviously take some time to learn the mechanics. Don't forget to use the training. When you're doing fights, don't worry about taking hits all the time. Every single monster, or at least every single mob and boss, they have certain mechanics to them that will tell you or at least allow you when to attack and when to dodge, and this just takes time to learn, and you will gradually learn as long as you pay attention. Now if you don't do that, you will find yourself constantly dying, losing a lot of haze and rage quitting, or at least leaving your game on and saying I will get back to it in the next month when I'm not so pissed off. So again, number one guys, go ahead and make sure you take your time. Okay, so number two is staggering. Now staggering is not new to this game obviously, but in games like this in Dark Souls, each mob and each boss has a staggering point. Now what I mean by staggering is when the enemy has been hit so many times that they just stand there, or they back up, or they fall, or they just don't attack, or they're not moving around. So you will see this as you fight monsters, and you will need to get used to or at least understand how each mob or boss works. So learning each boss or each mob's staggering point takes time, and you will just need to go ahead and get used to it and figure it out for each boss. Now one of the things that was hard for me or difficult for me early on is when I was fighting a mob or a boss and I didn't know when to attack or when to not attack. And really it comes down to learning the mechanics of that boss and that mob, and you will know when to dodge and you will know when to attack. Now depending on your weapon, obviously some of the smaller mobs, they're going to take 1 or 2 hits before you stagger them, and if you stagger them you can go ahead and take an extra 2 or 3 hits, which will allow you to get more damage in and get them either closer to death or dead. And the same thing goes for the bosses. Now obviously the bosses, it's going to take a lot more hits, but once you get to that staggering point, this is where you need to unleash most of your special moves or your special attacks or gift attacks, whatever they may be. So if you're having trouble with a boss or a certain mob, just try to understand what their staggering points are, and with dodging it will make most mobs pretty easy, but this goes back to the first thing of just taking your time and understanding when and when not to attack. So I'll probably do another video on this just to go a little bit more in depth, but if you guys are familiar with Dark Souls or games that are like that, you may be familiar with stat scaling. Now in Code Vein, stat scaling is just based on a letter, and it will tell you, now in Code Vein these stats are based on letters, and they will go all the way up to S+, S+ being the best, and what you have for your blood veil or your equipment or your weapon or even, you know, your blood code will depend on what your stats scale to. Now in terms of stats, you have strength, dexterity, mind, willpower, vitality, and fortitude, and when you equip certain things they will let you know what letter that certain stat goes into. So for example, I have a blood veil right here. It says strength B+ and dexterity D. Now if I were to switch this to the silver garb, you will see that, hey, my strength goes from a B+ down to a C+, meaning that I lose attack power, but my mind goes up to a C+ and my willpower goes up to a D, which means that my gift attacks, either light or dark, will be increased. So as you start to gain more blood veils or better weapons or new blood codes, you need to be aware of this and understand what they're going to scale your stats to. Now if you're familiar with any type of RPG, obviously it's going to be, you know, strength is going to go along with doing raw attack power. You're going to be doing things like two-handed swords, etc. If you want to be more of a mage or a spellcaster, you're going to be focused more on mind and willpower, and you're going to want to address it that way. So as you start messing with your equipment and what you have equipped, just be aware of what your stats will scale to based on how you want to build your character. Now this is super important for me because obviously in the beginning I didn't really understand it, and whatever I picked up that was new I just equipped because, well, I was a noob and that was my answer and that was my reason for doing so. So hopefully you guys don't do the same and it makes your gameplay a lot easier. Okay, number 4 is restoring all vestiges. So for you guys that didn't know, as you're playing through the story, make 100% sure that you've collected all vestiges and you restore them whenever these relic attendants appear or people that look like EO. If you haven't yet, don't do the boss fight. Make sure that you go ahead and restore as many as you can, because these won't be able to be restored after you beat the game, as the people that look like EO or the relic attendants will be gone, meaning you can't get the blood codes that they have. So if you're not familiar with restoring vestiges, obviously you talk to EO, and then from EO you go to restore vestige, and you can go ahead and walk through each memory. Now each memory is pretty tedious, but they allow you to skip through most of the memory. So again, with that being said, just make sure that you restore all vestiges, because maybe if you find a build that you want to do later in the game or end game, and you can't do it because maybe one of the passive gifts or the attack gifts you don't have from a blood code because you didn't restore the vestiges. Hence, I am speaking to you from experience. Okay, number 5 is be aware of your regen. Now, this is more for people that aren't familiar with games that are like Dark Souls. Now, in this game, you have a maximum number of heals that you can use as you're running through the boards or between missile to missile. Now, with that being said, obviously the goal is to kill as many mobs as you can without healing too much, so that way you can save some health. Now, what I recommend is if you're going through the level, and let's say you're maybe 50 or 60% through, or at least you think that, and you run out of heals, what I would recommend doing is just running back, because chances are that you're going to go ahead and die anyways. You're going to lose some of your haze, you're going to respawn back at the missile that was at the very beginning, and then you're going to have to run through it all again anyways. So it doesn't matter, either way the mobs are going to be reset. So just be aware of your health regen, how much you have left, don't push it to the envelope, and if you absolutely need to, just go ahead and run back to the missile. Now you can go ahead and increase the amount of regeneration that you do have, and that's by finding the regen activation. I believe they're called factors. Anyways, you find these during each level of the board. I believe there's a maximum of 10, but these allow you to have more regen as you play the game. Alright, so another important thing, and one of my favorite things about Code Vein, is that they have this hint menu that you can scroll through. So every time that you go through something, or you unlock a new tutorial, or you learn something about the game, they put it in the hint menu, and you can go ahead and reread that. Now, a game like this, there is obviously a lot that's going on. It has its own mechanics, it takes some mechanics from other games, but this will allow you to actually keep track of things that you've learned, or if you may forget. For example, a lot of people still don't understand how to do drain attacks. If you were to go to read hint, you can go ahead and see like, hey, it'll actually show what I need to press for me to do a drain attack. And again, that's through the menu and read hint at the top. Okay, number 7 is new or stronger weapons and blood veils does not necessarily make you a better player. So for some people, they may be thinking like, hey, if I level up and I find something new, I need to equip it immediately, because this is actually going to make me stronger. It's going to make the gameplay easier. That's not necessarily true. So most of the items that you pick up throughout the game are unique to the game, and they will actually scale accordingly. So what you need to do is make sure that depending on how your playstyle is, or what type of build that you're going for, just because you pick up something new, let's say you're rocking a halberd, you've upgraded it a little bit, you find a brand new bayonet from a boss and you think that you should be using that, that's not accurate, that's not true. Stick to what you need to do. If you want to try out that bayonet, try a different build, try to make it work around that. But just because you pick up a brand new item doesn't mean that it's better for you or it's stronger, etc. The game is really tailored towards builds and how you want to do them. Now, once you get to end game, it's really about taking those weapons and those blood veils that you found throughout the game, upgrading them accordingly, and then doing your builds based on that. Alright, so for number 8, you can stack your elemental damage. And what I mean by that is for your gifts where you have flame weapon where it adds fire damage, let's say you have lightning weapon where it adds lightning, or you have blood, you add blood damage to your weapon. Either way, you can actually stack these and they do work. Now, cosmetically, it does look like they don't stack, but they definitely do. It would be cool if Bandai did some type of update to where when you stack these, it does some type of effect visually, but for now, it doesn't. So what I mean is, let's say if I did thunder and then I did fire, it looks like thunder is no longer there, but it still is, just based on the numbers and the damage that we do. And I've tested this and it does prove that you can stack your elemental damage. Okay, so for number 9, as you complete most of these levels and you go back to that level, you may notice that NPCs will appear either at the end or the beginning. Now, these NPCs do have side quests that allow you to unlock things like maps and different items, but for the most part, you need to make sure that you do each and every single one of these if you want to go ahead and complete the game at 100%. Now, with that being said, one of the most important ones is going to be Shang. Now, Shang is located at the crossroads on the first map, and what makes Shang so important is that if you talk to him and you go to acquire valuables, he actually sells valuables that you can trade for trading points to people at your base. Now this becomes important towards the end of the game, obviously, because they have certain weapons or transformations that can only be gained if you have enough trading point. Now for example, Age Brandy will give Yakumo 5 points. Once you get 50 points for Yakumo, you can go ahead and get his two-handed sword, which I believe is called the Oni Bane. Now as far as what valuables provide the most points for which character, I will be doing a separate video on this. So again, if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, notification bell, so that way when I post that video, you get that information. All right, and for number 10, what I recommend is exploring every single part of each level or each board of each map to maximize your leveling experience. So as you guys know, you may be dying once or twice, and you can go back and get your haze, and then you can level up from there. But if you explore and you beat all the mobs, maybe you beat them more than once, this will maximize your leveling attempt and actually make the game a lot easier for you, because you'll be leveling up more than expected. Now each mob in each level or map or board is set at a specific level, meaning their stats don't scale accordingly. So as you level up and you keep leveling up, you can go ahead and make the game actually pretty easy, to the point where maybe once you get around 50 to 60% of the game, it does become a lot easier for you if you are having trouble. So just make sure that you explore everything as you're doing this, because not only do you not want to miss something, but you want to be well equipped and well ready for obviously the next map or the next boss. Alright guys, so those are 10 things that I wish I knew about Code Vein, either in the beginning of the gameplay or before I played. Obviously this game has been an amazing one at that. The story is not bad at all. It's actually pretty good. The RPG style and effects, making it similar to Dark Souls but making it more anime based, makes it extremely fun. Now I am disappointed at the multiplayer on here, because it leans more towards making sure that you play the game with friends versus exploring and meeting new people. But I'm not going to knock the game just for that. Overall, it is an amazing game. I do hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully those were some helpful tips or hints or tricks or etc., or whatever you want to call them, because once I started to piece together all of them, it definitely made more sense as far as how the game plays and what to do as I'm playing. Now if you guys haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for daily videos. In addition to this, if you guys have any video suggestions or any comments, go ahead and just drop them below. If you guys need help, or you need hints, or you need some type of strategy guide, whatever it is, comment below. Let's go for at least 5 likes on the video, and I'd very much appreciate that. Now thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.